Hello and thank you for tuning into this edition of News Today. Without delay, let's have a look at the headlines first. Centre introduces Waqf Amendment Bill 2024 in Parliament. Boilers Bill 2024 introduced in Rajya Sabha. According to a study, highest ocean heat in 4 centuries places Great Barrier Reef in danger. Dam designs to be assessed by government for vulnerability to Glacial Lake outburst floodings. CDSCO waives local clinical trials for new drugs approved in developed countries. District level committee approves habitat rights for Juangas of Keonjhar, a PVTG in Odisha. In our first news, we are focusing on an important development in the Indian Parliament: the introduction of the Waqf Amendment Bill 2024. This new bill proposes to amend the existing Waqf Act of 1995 with a fresh name: Unified Waqf Management, Empowerment, Efficiency and Development. Let's dive into what this amendment entails and its significance. First, let's look at the background. The Waqf Act had earlier been amended in 2013 following the recommendations of the high-level committee chaired by Justice Retired Rajinder Sachdev, along with insights from the Joint Parliamentary Committee report. Now, what are the key features of this new bill? One of the major changes is the creation of a database of Waqf properties, requiring that all such properties be registered on a dedicated portal within 6 months from the commencement of the Act. The bill also seeks to redefine the term Waqf as property dedicated by any person practicing Islam for at least 5 years and having ownership of such property. Moreover, this bill will ensure women's and non-Muslim representation on the Central Waqf Council and state boards. Other than that, the central government will have the authority to direct audits of any Waqf property at any time by an auditor appointed by the Comptroller, an Auditor General of India, or any designated officer. Another notable change is the decision-making power regarding disputed properties, which will now rest with the district collector to determine whether a property is Waqf or government land. Now, what are the objectives of this bill? It aims to effectively address issues related to the powers of the state Waqf boards and the registration and survey of Waqf properties. Furthermore, the bill is designed to enhance the efficiency of the administration and management of these properties. Now, let's take a quick review of what Waqf properties are. Waqf properties refer to movable or immovable properties dedicated in the name of God for charitable purposes through a deed or an instrument. They are managed by a legal entity with nominated members known as the Waqf Board. The Central Waqf Council, a statutory body established in 1964, oversees and advises state-level Waqf boards across India. In conclusion, the introduction of the Waqf Amendment Bill 2024 is a significant step towards modernizing and improving the management of Waqf properties in India.
In our next news, we are diving into an important legislative development: the introduction of the Boilers Bill 2024 in the Rajya Sabha. This bill is set to repeal the old Boilers Act of 1923, which was originally enacted to ensure uniformity in technical aspects related to the regulation of boilers across India. Now let's take a step back to see what changes have occurred over the years. The original act was amended by the Indian Boilers Amendment Act of 2007, which introduced the inspection and certification of boilers by independent third-party inspecting authorities. This move aimed to enhance the reliability and safety of boiler operations. Furthermore, the act was reviewed to incorporate decriminalized provisions, aligning with the Jan Vishwas Amendment of Provisions Act 2023. With these historical changes in mind, let's explore the key features of the new bill. It defines a competent authority as an institution recognized in a manner specified by regulations for granting certificates to welders for welding boilers and boiler components. This helps ensure that only qualified individuals handle these critical tasks. Importantly, the bill states that any person who makes structural alterations, additions, or renewals to a boiler without obtaining authorization from the Chief Inspector shall be punishable. The punishment may include imprisonment of up to 2 years, a fine of up to 1 lakh rupees, or both. Moreover, the central government is empowered to remove any difficulties in implementing the provisions of the Boilers Act 2024 within 3 years from the date of commencement of the Act. In addition to these features, the central government will constitute a Central Boilers Board to regulate the design, manufacture, erection, and use of boilers and boiler components. The objective of the bill is clear. It aims to regulate the manufacture and use of boilers, ensuring the safety of life and property from the danger of boiler explosions. It prohibits the use of unregistered and uncertified boilers, mandates the reporting of accidents, and promotes uniformity in the registration and inspection processes throughout the manufacturing, erection, and use of boilers. Now, why is this important? Well, industrial boilers play a critical role in various industries. They deal with the burning of fuel in large quantities, the attainment of high temperature and pressure zones, and the handling of high energy steam. Ensuring their safe operation is crucial to prevent accidents and protect lives and property. In conclusion, the Boilers Bill 2024 is a significant step towards modernizing and improving the safety regulations surrounding boilers in India.
In our next news, we are going to talk about a pressing environmental issue that's making headlines worldwide. The threat to the Great Barrier Reef due to the highest ocean heat recorded in the last 4 centuries. A study published in the prestigious journal Nature has highlighted that repeated mass coral bleaching on the Great Barrier Reef, driven by high sea surface temperatures, is threatening the survival of coral colonies, which are the backbone of this magnificent reef. To give you some context, from 2016 to 2024, there have been 5 mass coral bleaching events on the Great Barrier Reef. Now, you might be wondering what exactly is coral bleaching? Well, when corals are stressed by changes in conditions such as temperature, light, or nutrients, they expel the symbiotic algae living in their tissues, causing them to turn completely white. Several factors contribute to coral bleaching, including heat stress from raised water temperatures, increased UV radiation, runoff and pollution, extreme low tides, and ocean acidification. Now, let's take a closer look at the Great Barrier Reef itself. It is the largest coral reef system in the world, located off the coast of Queensland, Australia, in the Coral Sea. The reef was inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage List in 1981, recognizing its unique value and importance. But what exactly are coral reefs and why are they so important? Corals are invertebrate animals belonging to a large group of animals called Cnidaria. Coral reefs are created by millions of tiny polyps, forming large carbonate structures. Most of the world's coral reefs are found in tropical waters, with more than 1/3 located in the territories of Australia, Indonesia, and the Philippines. In India, they are found in the Gulf of Kutch, Gulf of Mannar, Andaman and Nicobar, Lakshadweep, and Malvan. Coral reefs hold the highest biodiversity of any ecosystem on the planet, even more than tropical rainforests. They protect coastlines from storms and erosion and act as a carbon sink, helping to regulate the Earth's atmosphere. Given their importance, steps have been taken for conserving coral reefs. Globally, initiatives like the Global Fund for Coral Reefs, the Global Coral Reef Monitoring Network, and the Coral Triangle Initiative are working hard to protect these underwater treasures. The Coral Triangle is a marine area located in the Western Pacific Ocean, including the waters of Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Papua New Guinea, Timor-Leste, and the Solomon Islands. In India, efforts include marine protected areas and coral restoration through biorock technology. These measures aim to safeguard coral reefs for future generations. In conclusion, the threat to the Great Barrier Reef is a stark reminder of the impact of climate change on our planet's ecosystem.
Next, we are focusing on an important initiative by the government, assessing dam designs for vulnerability to glacial lake outburst floods, commonly known as GLOFs. The Ministry of Power has identified 47 dams, including 38 that are already commissioned and 9 that are still under construction, as potentially affected by GLOFs from glacial lakes. This initiative comes in the wake of the Tista 3 dam collapse last year, which highlighted the need for a thorough review. In response, the Central Water Commission has decided to reassess the design flood of all existing and under construction dams that are vulnerable to GLOFs. Now you might be wondering, what exactly are GLOFs? Well, GLOFs occur when the water levels of glacial lakes breach their boundaries, causing large amount of water to flow into nearby streams and rivers. There are several reasons why GLOFs happen. Geologically, they can be triggered by events such as earthquakes or the breach of moraine dams. Morphologically, mass movement into glacial lakes or water seepage through glacial structures can lead to GLOFs. Physically, excessive precipitation or cryosysm, which is a non-tectonic seismic event of the glacial cryosphere, can cause these floods. Lastly, human-induced factors like climate change and global warming also play a significant role. The challenges posed by GLOFs are numerous. They are unpredictable and can occur suddenly with little warning. The loss of life can be devastating, as seen in the 2013 lake outburst in the Kedarnath Valley, which led to around 6,000 deaths. Remote areas such as Chamoli's Rishiganga Valley have also experienced GLOFs like the one in 2021. To manage the risks associated with GLOFs, several strategies are being considered. These include hazard risk zonation and mapping, monitoring of glacial lakes using advanced technology, and imposing restrictions and regulations on construction activities in hazard-prone areas. In conclusion, the government's initiative to assess dam designs for vulnerability to GLOFs is a crucial step toward ensuring the safety of both people and infrastructure in these vulnerable regions.
Ahead in the news, we are diving into an important development in the pharmaceutical world. The Central Drugs Standard Control Organization, or CDSCO, has waived local clinical trials for new drugs already approved in developed countries. Let's break down what this means and why it's significant. Starting with the waiver itself, this change falls under Rule 101 of the New Drugs and Clinical Trials Rules of 2019. Essentially, the Drugs Controller General of India, also known as the DCGI or Central Licensing Authority, can now specify certain countries whose drug approvals allow for a waiver of local clinical trials. Countries like the USA, UK, Japan, Australia, Canada, and the European Union can now supply drugs to India without the need for additional local trials. The waiver covers 5 specific categories: orphan drugs for rare diseases, gene and cellular therapy products, new drugs used in pandemic situations, new drugs for special defense purposes, and new drugs offering significant therapeutic advances over the current standard of care. Orphan drug basically means a drug intended to treat a condition which affects not more than 5 lakh persons in India. However, it's important to note that while the initial local trials can be waived, Phase 4 clinical trials will still be mandatory for these drugs. The DCGI, as the head of CDSCO, is the final regulatory authority for the approval of these clinical trials in the country. Now, let's talk about the significance of this waiver. First, it ensures that the latest medicines are available in India to treat diseases like cancer, as well as rare and autoimmune diseases. This is a huge step in providing better healthcare. Additionally, it reduces the cost of public procurement by governments under various schemes such as Ayushman Bharat. Furthermore, pharmaceutical companies can save on the cost they would have incurred conducting local trials. To give you some background on the Central Drugs Standard Control Organization, it operates under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and is the National Regulatory Authority of India. Under the Drugs and Cosmetics Act of 1940, the CDSCO is responsible for drugs approvals, the conduct of clinical trials, and laying down drug standards. The clinical trials themselves are conducted in 4 phases. Phase 1 involves a small group of volunteers to evaluate the drug's safe dosage, range, and identify side effects. Phase 2 involves giving the drug to a larger group, including patients with a particular disease, to assess its effectiveness. Phase 3 includes testing the drug on large groups, including patients, to compare it to other commonly used treatments. Finally, Phase 4 occurs after the drug has been approved by the DCGI and is marketed for public use. In conclusion, the waiver of local clinical trials for new drugs is a progressive step towards making cutting-edge treatments more accessible in India.
Ahead, let's dive into a significant development concerning the Juang tribe of Khyonjar, a particularly vulnerable tribal group or PVTG in Odisha. The district level committee has approved habitat rights for the Juangs, marking an important step forward for this indigenous community. To provide some context, other tribes like the Jungs of Jaipur, Pauri Bhans of Deoghar in Odisha, and PVTGs such as Bharia in Madhya Pradesh and the Kamar and Bega in Chhattisgarh already have habitat rights. Now let's understand what exactly are habitat rights. They were introduced under the Scheduled Tribes and Other Traditional Forest Dwellers Recognition of Forest Rights Act 2006, also known as the Forest Rights Act or FRA. According to the FRA, habitat refers to the area comprising the customary habitat and such other habitats in reserved and protected forests of primitive tribal groups and pre-agricultural communities, along with other forest-dwelling scheduled tribes. These habitat rights are granted after a thorough process of consultation with community members, traditional leaders, women leaders, district and forest administration, and others. For PVTGs, these rights are crucial as they provide control over their customary territory of habitation, socio-cultural practices, intellectual knowledge, traditional knowledge, and the conservation of their natural and cultural heritage. Speaking of PVTGs, the government has recognized 75 PVTGs across 18 states and 1 union territory based on the recommendations of the Dhebar Committee from 1960-61. Odisha is home to 13 PVTGs, which is the highest among all the states and union territories. The criteria for identifying a PVTG include a pre-agricultural level of technology, a low level of literacy, economic backwardness, and a declining or stagnant population. Focusing on the Juang tribe of Odisha, they are natives of the hills of Khyonjar and Palalar in Unugul, and they also inhabit the plains of Dhenkanal. The Juangs are divided into two groups, hill or Thania and plain or Bhaguria Juang. Historically, they were known as Pattuas due to their traditional attire of leaf skirts. The Juangs were originally practitioners of shifting cultivation, locally known as Toila Chasa. However, some have transitioned to settled agriculture over time. Additionally, they are skilled in crafting decorative combs and tobacco cases. In conclusion, granting habitat rights to the Juangs of Khyonjar is a positive move towards recognizing and preserving the cultural and traditional heritage of this unique community. Today's place in the news brings us to New Zealand with its capital Wellington. New Zealand is in the spotlight as the President of India addressed the New Zealand International Education Conference, where India is the country of honor this year. Let's dive into its political features. It is an island country located in the South Pacific Ocean between the Tropic of Capricorn and Antarctic Circle. It consists of two main land masses, that is North Island and South Island, separated by Cook Strait. Additionally, regarding its geographical features, it is part of Pacific Ring of Fire, houses alluvial Canterbury Plains, high central plateau called Central Otago. Its active volcanoes are Mount Ruapehu and White Island. Its highest peak is Mount Cook, with Tasman Glacier as the largest glacier. Lake Taupo, which is the largest natural lake, is the major lake there.
As we conclude today's main news, let's have a look at some quick updates. Reserve Bank of India increases the frequency of reporting of credit information by lenders, including banks and NBFCs, to CICs from monthly intervals to fortnightly basis or shorter intervals to boost transparency in system. CICs collect public data, credit transactions and payment histories of individuals and companies regarding loans, credit cards, among others. SJVN Limited Mini Ratna Schedule A CPSU under Ministry of Power has successfully commissioned the 90 MW Omkareshwar floating solar project at Khandwa, Madhya Pradesh. The floating solar project involves installing solar panels on floating structures situated on water bodies such as lakes, reservoirs, and ponds. For the second time in 2 years, a heat wave is sweeping through Antarctica in the winter season. Ground temperatures have been 10 degrees Celsius higher than normal on average since mid-July. According to scientists, higher temperatures are mainly a consequence of the weakening of the polar vortex. Recent wildfires in US and Canada are so intense that they have created pyrocumulonimbus clouds. These types of clouds occur when there is an extremely hot wildfire and volcanic eruptions. Recent study explains the formation of new topological features like plateaus and escarpments or high steep slopes through isostasy. Isostasy is the equilibrium or balance between blocks of crust and the underlying mantle. Recently, International Clouded Leopard Day was observed at Aizawl, Mizoram. According to IUCN, clouded leopards come in the vulnerable category. They are named after the distinctive clouds on its coat, ellipses partially edged in black with the insides a darker color than the background color of the pelt. The central government announced the full list of first ever Rashtriya Vigyan Puraskar 2024 awardees. Rashtriya Vigyan Puraskar is a new set of awards introduced by the Government of India in the field of science, technology and innovation. OpenAI is working on an AI watermarking technique that could recognize AI-generated content and prevent it from being used in fraudulent activities. Digital watermarking is the process of embedding a digital code or watermark into a digital content like image, audio, or video. Before we sign off, let's challenge your understanding in today's installment of Test Your Knowledge. Thank you for joining us. We hope you found this episode of News Today engaging. For the solution to the quiz and to access the PDF version of News Today, remember to visit the provided links in the description below.